Welcome to the Team Teach podcast. I'm Clare, and in each episode you'll find me talking with an expert guest to learn more about behaviour. We squeeze a lot into each episode. You'll listen to the latest thinking in behaviour, continue your professional development with our book recommendation, and then I'll send you away with 3 practical tips you can use in your setting. I'm joined today by Leonie Maclay and Caroline McAteer. They are co-founders of Zingera, a community interest company which blends real-world and virtual learning to unlock potential. And today we are talking about how to use blended learning in your service. Enjoy the episode. Hi Leonie, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. And yourself?
Yeah, very well, thank you. And we're also very lucky to be joined by Caroline as well. How are you doing, Caroline?
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I know. We're recording on a Sunday, so we're like sharing a nice rest day talking about, well, it's obviously a real passion of both Caroline and Leonie. We're talking about blended learning and emotional based school avoidance. And I'm sure practitioners listening will be really interested in this because it is going on in schools where we do have a dearth of emotional based school avoidance, and having kind of practical solutions and ideas around it can only be helpful. I wondered, Leonie, if you could just start us off by talking about your experience in the topic.
Okay, so it began really when my son was out of school. He was out of school from the age of 9 and had a brief spell in special school after a tribunal. He was actually signposted to the NISI Virtual Academy by Wiltshire Council, in fact. He was described as their first case study. So he started doing some GCSE courses with them, and it was for him because he'd had 2 years of unschooling effectively. It was a case of catching up and then going at his own pace. He's a boy with a spiky profile, so dual and multiple exceptionality is a term that means the combination of special educational needs and high learning potential. Blended learning offers fantastic possibilities to personalise learning to both meet needs and allow interests and strengths to be supported at the same time.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that, Leonie. And what about you, Caroline?
Well, I have 2 special educational needs children. My eldest has auditory dyslexia and sequence dyslexia, which affects his ability to organise his day. It's quite profound. So, but he also has high learning potential. My other son, Finley, he has ASD and ADD. And he missed school from year 8. In year 8 of senior school, he ended up in isolation for pretty much an entire year, and then was moved to schools, a fresh start system, and he was running away from school every day, and the school is 6 miles away. So he was walking home 6 miles every day. So I eventually took him out of school, and he was homeschooled by myself. And then with the help of lots of different people, CAMS, Wiltshire Council, we've managed to get him into college to do his GCSEs.
Well, that sounds amazing. And I can see how for some individuals, and I find this in my services that I work in, that for some individuals, school can be incredibly difficult. And I'm sure both of you know that phrase, kind of, square peg, round hole. And that comes up quite a bit, doesn't it? And yeah, it's clear kind of your passion around this topic. I wondered, Leonie, if you could talk first about our reflective questions. So kind of what you wish you knew then that you know now about the topic of blended learning.
Well, in my son's case, I'm not sure how much of it was available at the time he left school originally. So it was really a process of discovering as we went along. But being able to use a laptop was, one of the first things that helped, because he has hypermobility, but he became extremely fast at handwriting. And although he had some support from an occupational therapist when he was younger, he only really got better at handwriting when so he's now in a mainstream sixth form, doing subjects that he loves, and he has to use his handwriting for mathematical symbols, and through that his handwriting has improved. So I think using strengths to support interests is something that would ideally start, from the early years and carry on through school. Technology can support that in various different ways for arts subjects and STEM subjects, and across the board really, but it very much depends on context and the hardware and expertise available.
Yeah, it's I noticed in your kind of biography that you sent through your interest in technology and kind of how that can influence learning. And I suppose thinking about your son, in some ways it's a shame that blended learning was catapulted during COVID, I would say, without knowing so much myself about the topic. And it feels like those opportunities are only just kind of coming now, in more depth than previously.
Yes, I agree. It was a bit of a shock to the system, wasn't it? And I think, teachers did very well to pick up what they had to pick up at the time, but it probably put a lot of people off technology altogether. However, I studied a course in technology enhanced learning with the Open University, which really opened my eyes to all sorts of possibilities and things that have been tried around the world. I also, I think it was in 2016, I went to a David Hockney exhibition where he had his iPad art on display, and huge prints of his iPad artwork. And I discovered this app called Art Rage, which is extremely accessible, because so we've created an online course called Art Rageous Activities, which takes you through from digital fingerprint painting to multimedia art and design. The app is designed for artists, but because of my background in architecture, I can see all sorts of other possibilities. And because you can use it on a mobile app and it combines art and design with photography, it really has endless possibilities, and it only costs $4.99 a one-off payment. So it's a great place to start with blended learning, I think.
Yeah, and you both will know this, but the idea of stoking people's interest using technology to really enhance enjoyment of the subject. If you work with parents and carers, our family engagement training equips you with the skills, knowledge and understanding to build positive relationships. Help your families understand and support their child's behaviour, recognise the challenges and opportunities in your organisation, and receive an exclusive range of resources you can use to practically support your families. Take a look at this exciting training option on the Team Teach website. Caroline, I just wondered if you would mind answering that reflective question about what you wish you knew then that you know now.
Well, going along the same lines as Leonie, really, technology. The use of apps, the use of AI. I mean, again, this is all new. This is all stuff that's just been coming in the last 2 or 3 years. But had those things been available to both of my children, I think their progress through school would have been a lot calmer and a lot easier for them. Certainly with Ewan's dyslexia, he rarely puts pen to paper. because he finds that he uses lots of different apps. And I wish I'd found out today to tell you what they were. He uses so much technology. It's almost like NASA space station when I walk in his living room. So many devices that he uses to cope with life and to sort of do his work, to organize himself. And yeah, so it is technology really, and being able to sort of move away from mainstream learning and being able to be a lot more flexible with the use of technology.
Yeah, that word flexible, I think, is going to come up quite a lot in this episode. And I know you set up your community interest company, Zingera, really off the back of your life experience with your own children and some of the courses as well that, you know, Leonie's mentioned. But I wondered really for the practitioners listening, if you could just go through a little bit of what blended learning is. I know that sounds like a strange question, but I think even from our early discussions, actually it's skewing slightly what I thought blended learning was already. So I just wondered if you could give your own definition. Maybe Leonie, if you could start.
Well, it's really the combination of use of technology and hands-on or real-world learning. That can happen in all sorts of different ways. In the app club, we're currently working with children in year 1 and 2. And as I said, we're using the art rage on mobile devices. We have in the cohort, we have 22 children, and we've been using 8 iPads. Last week we did an activity where most of the children were decorating masks on cardboard masks, whilst I was working with a group of 8 children who were on the iPads, and then they're able to photograph objects and enhance them digitally. So it's not instead of hands-on learning, and really it's important to keep that going for all sorts of reasons, but thinking about fine motor skills, you can actually do more interesting things with your hands, like make models out of recycled materials and then enhance them in the app. So one of the things I did when I first got the app was I took a piece of paper out of the bin, which I think he was, let me see, probably about 7 at the time. He'd been colouring in it was a complicated flower pattern, and he'd spent a long time, I think, at school colouring it in great detail, and he'd still only done about a third of it and got frustrated and screwed it up. And I unfolded it and photographed it and just put it against a different background, and it really made quite a special drawing. So, so I think it can increase confidence in terms of creativity and really allow a lot more people to think of themselves as creative and as potential artists and designers and game designers, all sorts of careers it can be useful for.
Yes, I'm finding it really interesting, this topic, because I think about the individuals that I work with. So I work in an autistic provision school for secondary age pupils, and I think there is, even in specialist education, like technology isn't like up there still yet, in not just in that service, but in many services that I go to. And then I think at home, children, young people are probably accessing far more technology than they kind of learn in a controlled way in school. And that always feels strange to me.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons for starting the App Club and creating online resources. I mean, the bigger idea with the App Club is that the goal would be to have a national network of app clubs with leaders from different fields introducing their own expertise and different apps that maybe they're using professionally or just just for their own interests, because there are so many apps out there, so many possibilities, and finding different ways to introduce them into schools and to families. I think that, there's a huge amount to be gained by that.
Yeah, absolutely. And all details around your programs that you're running, your website, etc., we'll have in the show notes so people can kind of click and have a look through after the episode. Caroline, I'm thinking about your personal experience, I suppose, with emotional based school avoidance. I don't mean you, I mean, well, you might have done, I don't know, but the children that you've mentioned, or your child that you've mentioned. And I'm just wondering how approaches like blended learning can help children that have that emotion based school avoidance, what the benefits are.
It can take them away from their anxiety. So if they're in a classroom full of children and they feel like they've done that piece of work, and then they're sort of moving around and anxious, and that, they want to touch things, they want to do things. If they were able to sort of have a laptop or an iPad where they're able to expand on what they've just learned, because they've already done that piece of work. So they can expand on it and explore a bit more. With regards to Ewan, he was always classed as this child that was not able to do things. And I remember once he went into a specialist centre and they just said to me, Caroline, he's too clever to be in here. He just wants to know. They were learning about the solar system, and he said, well, what happens now, and what happens now, and what happens now? So if you had he was learning what the class was learning and then got taken away to an iPad where he can explore further what is going on in the universe, etc., etc. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does totally. So I suppose that technology, or that blended approach for those students that are actually struggling with the what next, like what's going to happen next in the lesson, then you've almost got this security that's going to reduce that anxiety, because they've got the iPad, they've got certain bits of technology they can use to kind of further their understanding, rather than feeling like they're kind of lost in the ether and are not really sure what to do next, which we all know that creates anxiety, not being really certain of what might come next. Have you got anything to add on that one, Leonie?
Yes, I think, it doesn't need to be complicated. I think if one child is struggling in a particular subject, they might need some extra support, and if those children who are able to learn independently with technology are doing that rather than causing trouble in the class, then teachers' attention can be diverted to those who need it most. I think, as I said, it does depend very much on the context and on the individual, and that's why what we are planning to do is to co-create blended learning templates as examples of different ways of implementing blended learning in schools, not just in schools, but in schools at home and on a flexi school basis.
Yeah, because there's so many different ways that children might be accessing school now. You mentioned like the flexi-based learning, and maybe having some time doing other things away from school, as well as attending school with all the school's agreements. So it is very individualized and personalized, I suppose, to the individual. I've just got a couple of devil's advocate kind of thoughts that have popped into my head from working in schools, and there might be the kind of, I don't know, reluctance around technology because of the fear around supervision of technology, seeing things that children, young people shouldn't be seeing, doing things they shouldn't be. I don't know if you had any thoughts around that, because I'm wondering if some practitioners might have those thoughts in their head.
Well, I would suggest looking at the Leo Academy Trust, where blended learning has been in use, and it's been researched for I think about 3 years. They have an impact report, which is quite spectacular in terms of the improvements in progress, particularly for children with special educational needs.
Yeah, I saw that on your website actually, and in some of the notes that we got. And it's that thing, isn't it? Is that our fear of technology can be quite big for good reasons, because we know that it can cause some harm in various ways. But the benefits, when we get it right, are obvious in the evidence, that you've put forward there from the Leo Academy Trust. Have you got anything to add on that one, Caroline?
Well, I mean, most schools have security things put in place. So apps and websites that weren't sort of appropriate for children are usually sort of very heavily secure. They wouldn't have. Most schools have tech people come in and make sure that there is a firewall up and that there's nothing coming in. It wouldn't. I don't think that should be an issue, because we are, very aware of the things that you can find online now, and they are blocked within schools.
Yeah, I think that those safeguarding measures are, well versed, well practiced. I suppose I'm always just thinking about, even though the apps and everything would be checked for safety, I suppose practitioners just might have this fear around, not supervising someone on technology. I don't know if that rings true or.
I mean, I suppose if a child is using an iPad, the idea is that they're calm and they're being kept occupied. It doesn't mean that the teacher can't go over and check on them. I mean, a teacher goes around and checks on all of the children within the classroom. You don't completely just shove them in a corner and say, there you go, there's your iPad. You can have teaching assistants that are in the classroom go over, check, make sure that they're not accessing stuff that they should not be accessing. And also it's there's trust, isn't there? You trust that child that they're going to be doing that. If they've been given that opportunity to be able to sort of explore the subject more deeply or whatever, then you should, if that trust is there, then I would say, as long as they are periodically checking, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, thanks for that, Caroline. I just wanted to voice that, I suppose, because I just wonder sometimes if there is a bit of a block with these type of things because of fear. And it's really good to hear from you to kind of alleviate some of those things around the safeguarding that's already set up in schools, and also that kind of regular checking. And I love that bit about trust, because it is trust. And then obviously if someone was breaking that trust and kind of not following safety guidelines, etc., that trust would be broken. And then, the natural consequence would be that you'd have to revisit whether it's appropriate for that person to have access to that, for a period of time. So I think that was really great to go through that. I'm mindful of time. I cannot believe it. I have actually got loads more questions. I'm probably going to have to ask you off air, which will probably annoy the listeners. But I just wondered if we could just finish with our 3 top tips. So Leonie, if you go first for us.
Sure. So firstly, to make use of technology to personalise learning for children who learn differently. You could start with personalised homework, flipped learning, so that you're doing learning with technology at home and doing more active collaborative things in school, or trying out flexi days. And I would recommend looking at Finding the Flex, which is an organisation that supports schools and families and local authorities to go to flexi school. So second one is to help children to make creative use of technology and curate digital portfolios which reflect their strengths and interests. And the third one is to experiment with mobile technologies to enhance outdoor learning. On my smartphone, I've got a compass, a measuring tool, voice memo tool, an app called Merlin Bird ID, which identifies birds from their song, Sandbox AR, which is a virtual reality app, and also the app Art Rage, which we're using in the App Club, where you can combine photography with digital art and design.
That's great. Yeah, we'll have that in the show notes and then a link to the website. And Caroline, some top tips from you?
Oh, check out our website, Zingera. That's a top tip. We've got loads of information on the website and lots of things you can access. So go and check that out. For parents, really, is sort of know that you're not alone. You're not alone. There are lots of things out there, lots of people out there that can help you. And just everybody be patient and understanding, please. Everybody's different. Everybody learns differently. Let's have some patience and understanding.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much to both of you, and I hope we can catch up soon.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Team Teach podcast. It's been great to have you here with us as we discuss behaviour, communication, and the ways we can best support those in our care. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.